these horrific attacks, barbaric behavior by their neighbors, funded by Iran.
While we have you here, real quick, did you have any meetings yesterday? I know that Vice President-elect, I should say J.D. Vance, taking Matt Gaetz around to meet with members of the Senate.
I haven't had any meetings yet. I expect that the appointees will be focused early on the committees of jurisdiction over their nomination. So I definitely want to have those meetings. I want to explore many issues with them, from how they would choose to run the department. In the case of Mr. Gaetz, I want to know how he would go about ferreting out the lawfare and corrupt behavior of the U.S. Department of Justice, in addition to exploring some of the behaviors that are alleged against him, and how he would respond to those kind of questions. So could those things be
disqualifying for you?
I want to. I want him to tell me in his own words who he is today, who he used to be, and what he would do to run the department. All of those issues should be on the table when we finally get around to having our conversation.
Okay, Senator, great to talk to you this morning. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's nice to see you all. Have a great day.
Thanks.
When we come back, a can't-miss interview with NHL legend Wayne Gretzky. Don't go anywhere.
All right, well, something tells me Wayne Gretzky isn't at the top of everyone's mind this morning. Guys, make sure to take a second, go drop a like on the stream. Really appreciate everyone for being here. I tried to catch it. They kind of drifted off. They were talking about the Bitcoin strategic reserve, and it made a lot of sense. It's like, hey, rather than just selling the seized Bitcoin, let's just keep it, right? Like, why are we selling all this Bitcoin that we have at the U.S. government? Why don't we just keep the Bitcoin, right? And that's what Senator Loomis was saying, and I agree with that, right? I don't know if I'm that on board with the government going out and purchasing Bitcoin, just because I think the government probably has bigger things they should be worried about than purchasing Bitcoin off the open market. But with that said, I mean, if it just comes down to not selling Bitcoin you already have, I mean, I could certainly get on board with that. All right, we're back. We're back. I could have sworn I did that. That's all right. That's how we start the stream around here. Bitcoin strategic reserve. I was just saying that what they're probably going to be doing is keeping seized Bitcoin rather than selling Bitcoin. No. We don't worry. We got it. Chat's a little delayed, so it just takes me a second to see the chat versus what you guys are saying. So we're good. Could have sworn I did that this morning. Of course I did not, though. But that's all right. Yeah. What are we going to talk about today? I didn't have an agenda from Taylor this morning to go over a whole bunch of stuff. Appreciated that the other day, Taylor. It's kind of nice having that to go through. Messi, good to see you. Good morning. Galicio, good to see you. Light's a little bright here. Let me see if I can turn this down a little bit. Crypto Clay, good to see you. All right, let's take a look at what we got in the news real quick. See if we got anything interesting going on. Right now for XRP, it seems like we're kind of on the verge of a breakout. Right now, Bitcoin, obviously, we woke up to Bitcoin up massive. I'll take a quick look at Bitcoin. Yeah, Bitcoin's pulling back a little bit. It looks like Bitcoin was very close to getting to 100K. As you can see, made a nice big push up, 97. Very close to getting to that 100K level, which would be massive. Massive if Bitcoin were to get that 100K. And what we know is XRP. I don't know why he's comparing to XLM right now. And what we know is XRP follows, right? So the higher Bitcoin goes, the higher XRP is going to go and following it. And probably pretty soon we start to look for that pullback move from Bitcoin, in which XRP really takes off. So we can do a quick comparison right now, Bitcoin to XRP. Take a look at how that chart specifically is looking. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. And you can see that XRP hasn't completely caught up to Bitcoin, but in terms of percent gains, it is absolutely catching up pretty quickly here. Let me just make sure I'm not in the way. For a while, XRP was really lagging, but what you can see is XRP is really starting to close the gap. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start to close this gap faster and faster as we get news like Gary Gensler leaving. And hopefully a new SEC chair that is pro XRP and specifically cryptocurrencies. We have some good candidates right now. We have some good candidates right now that are very, very pro XRP specifically, which is crazy to see. Crazy to see. Never thought I would see the day we had an SEC chair that was literally pro XRP, but cool to see. XRP is still kind of consolidating. I'll take a look at the XRP price chart alone so we can take a look at what I'm watching there. Obviously, XRP had a big breakout out of this formation we've been watching for a while, but now we're kind of at that next step, which is to hopefully, let me drop the time frame here. Hopefully break out of this other formation we're forming, which looks like we could be hopefully getting some momentum on that this morning. We're at the end of this thing. It's kind of, I'm actually surprised we haven't gotten anything yet. Looks like to me any moment we should be expecting something here. So we're just waiting to see what ultimately happens. Like I said, I'm surprised. I thought we would have already had something indicating a move one way or the other. But I guess we'll see. Golden cross alert for HBAR. Okay, we can take a look at HBAR in a bit. Guys, if you're watching the stream right now, make sure to take a quick second, stop what you're doing, and like the stream. Super, super helpful in getting more people in here. And really appreciate everyone doing that. Goes a long, long way. What if you don't like the stream? Well, if you don't like the stream, less people are going to see the stream. And if less people see the stream, less people are going to be buying XRP. So, well, we want more people to see the stream, more people to be purchasing XRP. Awesome. You guys are the best. 700 people watching already. Really appreciate everyone for being here. I really hope we start to get some momentum on the breakout on this. Taylor, some of that data you were sending me earlier in terms of the amount it takes to move Bitcoin and XRP is pretty incredible. So we did some digging into it, and Chad Steingraber the other day was sending us some data that said it looked like $4 million caused this most recent pump in XRP. It's looking like it was more like $100 million caused it. But the fact that $100 million caused a double in the price of XRP should really show you that if we saw $1 billion in inflows into XRP, which I think is certainly possible, what that could do. Firedog, good to see you. Thank you so much. Fire Dog keeps me fueled all day with his coffee donations, and we appreciate that, Fire Dog. Fire Dog makes sure I got enough caffeine in my body to make it through the entire day. Guys, take a look at this consolidation. I mean, this thing is really tightening up here at the end. We're going to get something to cause this thing to break. We just got to hope that it's the upside, but it does look like to me this will break to the upside. Normally these formations do. And we were also on a very bad streak for a while of these things breaking to the downside. So hopefully that means they're going to start breaking to the upside consistently to kind of even things out. Tracy says, Gary, resign already? Well, what's the date today? Today is the 19th. Or, no. Today's the 21st. So, we're likely probably going to see Gary Gensler resign after Thanksgiving, I'm thinking. Yeah, that's what the story is. Tracy says $1.89 today. That would be incredible. That would be incredible. $1.89. I don't think anyone would be complaining about that. I have a one-on-one with CJV. Oh, Coach J. Oh, Fire Dog. Let me know how that goes. Really interested. Coach is a great guy, and really interested to see the value you get from that. Trying to format this screen a little better. I don't know why I can't. There we go. That's a little better. Well, Sui did a better job and turned around a fix in 2 hours. Not 2 days. Well, did something happen to Sui? What happened to Sui? I did not see what ended up happening to Sui. I'm curious now. Did it go down or something? Sui's been stable? Okay, Defin, thank you for that. Let me take a look. Oh, yeah, it looks like there was an outage. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these networks, these new networks seem to have some sort of outages. It's interesting that the XRP ledger has been so consistent, yet faces so much FUD. These other blockchains, right, are constantly having issues. Resistance zone, so much resistance at 113. Yeah, I don't know if I see it at 113 per se. I'm kind of watching this more than anything. This is kind of that zone I'm watching in particular in terms of what is kind of impacting the price at the moment. Sorry, guys, just trying to get the screen formatted a little bit for the vertical audience. There you go. That should be a little better. Okay, cool. Just needs volatility. Yeah, and I'm curious where that volatility is going to come from, and like why we had such a big spike the other day, and now it seems like we've lost a lot of that volatility or volume. I think for whatever reason, I don't understand why volume comes to XRP in such big waves. It's like we have a big wave of volume and then things calm down, and then a big wave of volume and then things calm down. I don't know why that's the case. It's almost like volume hits. It's almost like volume hits all at one time. Thorium up big. I want to take a quick look at HBAR. I know some people in the TikTok chat were talking about HBAR. Let's take a look at HBAR. Yeah, it looks like HBAR is trying to recover right now. Had a bit of a sell-off after that big run and just trying to get its momentum back going again. So I'll keep an eye on HBAR over the next couple of days. Kind of need to see it start rebounding or really create some nice support here. But obviously that initial pump was nice. Looks like we have some data coming in.
Claims rose. I'm not that concerned about it, especially because the input numbers, the number that Rick read first, the 213, remains relatively low. Not exactly sure why some people seem to be staying on it, but it seems to be okay. I want to talk very quickly, guys, about an index that we follow from time to time when it spikes up. It's the Economic Policy Uncertainty Index. It is higher now, and I would suggest it's higher and been rising over the past several months for several weeks for a couple of reasons. The first is the inflation numbers. You can see they are making unclear where the Fed is going, and of course the incoming administration. What impact this has is unclear. If it remains uncertain, we'll see as to whether or not it has an effect on business spending, which is something you'll want to watch. Becky?
Oh, okay. Steve, thank you very much.
Coming up much more on the economy and the markets, and check out NVIDIA shares now turning positive just in the last few minutes. Squawk Box will be right back.
I kind of missed the data coming in there. I'm not sure if anyone else got it, but we do have Bitcoin kind of rallying on this data. Bitcoin was dropping. This data came in, and now Bitcoin's kind of rallying. It would be crazy to see 100K today. Oh, XRP Unleashed drops from the website. Oh, awesome. Dreaming DeFi, thank you so much and appreciate your first ever super chat. Oh, it's always cool when people have their first ever super chat on my stream. Really appreciate that. I think it's possible Bitcoin could hit 100K on the stream. Really doesn't have a lot to go. Let me draw a line for 100K Bitcoin. There it is. There it is. Also, guys, there's a lot of talk about Deck Screener being close in the meme market. I saw a couple of people talking about Drop. So I wanted to give the meme market a quick shout out, especially to Drop Army, who's always coming here and showing some love on the stream. So I appreciate that. First Ledger. the XRP meme market. I did see someone saying the other day, which I thought was fascinating. The XRP ledger is the largest chain with the lowest market cap meme. So you are someone who's noticing like, hey, the XRP ledger is a multi-billion-dollar chain with the top meme coin only at 13 and the second one only at 5 million. You know, maybe there's opportunity there. Link in the description of the live stream if you do want to get involved there. Understand it's gambling, it's risky, blah, 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 blah. But some people are interested in taking on that little extra risk to hopefully accumulate more XRP and not lose XRP, right? You never want to be losing XRP. What I do personally is I only have a certain amount that I transferred in the beginning, and then I only will ever use that amount of XRP there. And if I lose all that XRP, it's gone. I'm done. You know, if XRP is at 10, 20, 30, $50 one day, I'm not going to want to be losing a lot of XRP to memes. So you always got to be careful. Only 143 likes on the stream, guys. Make sure to smash that like button. Bitcoin now at $98,000. Like I said, I think it's a possibility we hit 100K on this live stream and actually set the bar a little high there. Man, it is like it's insane how fast this market has turned around. I mean, I remember just a couple of months ago, we were live streaming talking about, oh, the Bitcoin ETFs might be going live. Oh, all these things in terms of FTX going under, how much this would delay the industry. Now we have freaking Senator Loomis on CNBC. Oh, breaking news. This is probably going to be lame, but let's see.
All right, the latest look at initial jobless claims coming in below expectations. Continuing claims at their highest level since 2021.
This is good,
Joining
actually.
us right now for more on the economy is John Riding, Green Capital Chief Economic Advisor. And John, let's quickly look at these numbers that just came through. You said it's the jobless claims. It's really the big wow here.
Right, it is, because we had a little bit of a surge on the effects of hurricanes Helen and Milton. The numbers have not only gone back down, we're now at the lowest level on initial jobless claims since April. It's at the same level as a year ago. So what does that say? It says companies are not firing people at a faster rate. The layoffs have to be remaining for the economy as a whole relatively low here. And so, that's something that the Fed certainly needs to take into consideration when it thinks about the pace of rate cuts.
And yet you still have consumers that are a little hesitant. We heard from Target this week. Walmart had better numbers, but Walmart's also dealing in far fewer discretionary goods than Target is. You hear from anybody who's watching the retailers at this point, and there is some concern that there's some hesitancy and consumers that are focused on budgets.
I think there is, and there's signs that consumers are stretched in some parts of the income distribution. There's also signs, though, that consumers are better off than we thought, because when we got those revisions to the GDP data a month or so ago, we found that the savings rate was significantly higher over the last year than previously thought. So people have been saving more. So they have, in a sense, a little more, maybe dry powder is the wrong word, but they're in a little less need to have to pare back to sustain their finances.
So if we were to bet on Christmas this year, what would that bet? I mean, we got Target up there on the screen right now. What would you bet if we looked at retail, just overall? If you came in on January 5th, what would we say?
Well, it's really hard to say, Andrew, because economists live in a seasonally adjusted world. So it's like 1/365th of Christmas every day. But I mean, if you look around the city, you look outside the studio here, you look coming down Fifth Avenue, things look pretty busy out there. So I don't know how Christmas is going to be. I don't know for any particular retailer, but there is no sign, in my opinion, that the consumers are getting ready to retrench here.
Back to this idea of what the Fed should be doing, because that's the important one for the markets. We keep looking at this as a Goldilocks time where the economy's pretty good, earnings are still coming in strong. And yet you've got the Fed cutting rates. Do you think the Fed is going to pull back and cut less than the market is expecting at this point?
They're going to have to. Well, the market's already expecting the Fed's going to cut less than they said back in September they were going to be cutting. September was really odd. The Fed panicked, in my opinion, cutting rates by 0.5 point. We saw no justification for that. Yes, policy was tight. Yes, they could plan to cut rates a little bit gradually and get back to neutral. But they panicked because they were worried that the economy was in rougher shape, that the unemployment rate might be going significantly higher. And since that Fed meeting in September, and they've cut again since then, we've had, with the exception of the hurricane effects of October, a stronger jobs report. We've had upward revisions to GDP, so we know the economy is growing faster than 3% over the last year, and the current quarter looks like it's very early days, but might be on track to something pretty close to 3%. So the economy's been strong. We know inflation has been a little higher than the Fed has been expecting. So the Fed
stock market,
really needs
Bitcoin. We had stock market, Bitcoin. I mean, there's no reason you have not said that they were.
So this is pretty interesting, and this is something that I've pushed back on. Oh, sorry. So this is pretty interesting, and this is something that I've really tried to push back on. Everyone is acting so confused, like, why is the Fed cutting rates? But it's so simple, in my opinion, and I don't understand why these people come on and say, oh, the Fed made a mistake, blah, 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 blah. What is the Fed doing? Let me show you why. Look at this. It tells me I have to change to 1 month. Great. Just change it for me. Oh. U.S. inflation rate year over year. Okay, now this chart's just not working. Come on. Inflation. Give me the inflation. Switch to 1 month. All right, is this just not going to give me inflation? What is going on? Just not readjusting the chart for me. Okay, well, apparently it's just going to make me zoom in. All right, well, this is the... Sorry about that. I don't know why I did that. Here's the inflation data, and to me, it can't be more obvious why the Fed's cutting rates. The Federal Reserve literally came out and said, when interest rates get close to 2%, we're going to take rates back to a normal level. Before, inflation was at 9%. Now it's at 2%. So the federal, and I think I didn't say, I think I said interest rates before I meant inflation. Inflation is back within the Fed's target of 2%. If you take a look at historically where inflation sits in the last 100 years, it's in their range. Like, it's in this range right now between these red bars. So that's why they're cutting rates. All these people go on CNBC, they're like, oh, we think the Fed's panicking. It's like, no, the data is reflecting that inflation is where the Fed needs it to be. So I don't understand why these people go on CNBC and they're so confused about why the Fed is cutting rates. Inflation is where it needs to be. Now, I would like to take a quick look at Trueflation and see where Trueflation is reporting inflation at, because this to me is also U.S. inflation index. Okay, so Trueflation does have inflation ticking up slightly, which isn't great, but I don't know how sustainable this is going to be. Deflation kind of has inflation coming all the way down to 1.1% essentially, and then rebounding back to like 2.4. So it's a little volatile in there, which we would like to see it going down more for rate cuts. But I think the more important thing is like, regardless, we're still in this like band of the 100-year average. So I don't know. A lot of people are saying like, oh, the U.S. is not going to cut rates. But if we take a look at rates, U.S. interest rates. Let me clear this drawing. We can see that, in my opinion, it's fairly obvious where the direction of this chart is going. We're likely going to see interest rates brought back down to at least 2%-ish. So this is going to come down here, just like it has every single time in the past. So I don't know. All these people are so confused about what interest rates are going to do. But I mean, like, it's not hard to look at the trend and see that every single time we've had interest rates go up, they've pretty quickly come back down. So inflation looks like it's back in line. The economy is doing well, and it doesn't make sense to have interest rates as high as they are. A lot of these people who go on CNBC are convinced that it's the Federal Reserve's job to make it so the economy doesn't grow. The Federal Reserve's job is not to make it so the economy doesn't grow. It's to get rid of inflation. So I don't understand necessarily why they're all so convinced that we need to destroy the market. It's not the Fed's job to destroy the market. It's the Fed's job to keep inflation in line And if they can keep inflation in line with a good economy, I mean, that's a win-win. Like, no one wants to destroy the U.S. economy just for the sake of destroying the U.S. economy. The whole reason they had to do it was because inflation was too hot. But if inflation's taming, then they don't have the same worries. They can start saying, okay, well, maybe we don't need to have rates this high, especially if inflation's going away. So that's where I think that stands. All right, this is one of the things we talk about a lot on the channel, right? This is one of the things we talk about a lot on the channel. I understand people who don't think inflation is at 2%. And the reason why you likely don't is because inflation aggregate is set 28%. So things are still dramatically higher than they were before. Understand the difference between aggregate inflation and inflation, right? Understand the difference between aggregate inflation and inflation. Because if you don't understand the difference between aggregate inflation and inflation, it's going to be very difficult to understand what I'm saying when I say inflation is coming down. Aggregate inflation is what you feel. Aggregate inflation is what you see when you go to the grocery store. The inflation numbers we talk about on this channel are what the Federal Reserve is reporting. There's a difference between what you feel in your daily life and what the markets are looking at. And look, we can talk about what you feel in your daily life on this channel all day long, but this channel is mostly focused on what the market sees, and the market is seeing those 2% inflation numbers because those are the Federal Reserve's numbers, right? The Federal Reserve is who we listen to when it comes to inflation, and you might dislike that, you might not agree with it, but the fact of the matter is it's what all the big banks and all the big institutions look at, so that's what we have to look at. We can't look at what you feel in your daily life, unfortunately, because it just doesn't matter that much when we're talking about what these powerful institutions are going to be doing. I don't think the government is trustworthy. I don't. And I don't believe the government data that is at 2%. I think it's probably closer to 4, 5, maybe even 6%. But it's important to realize, though, guys, Trueflation is an independent organization. So Trueflation pulls the prices of everything all around the world and is completely independent of the government. It's actually ran by Chainlink. It's a completely decentralized way of monitoring inflation. So, like Trueflation, like you can say all you want about not believing the government data, but there's no real reason not to believe Trueflation. Like you can go and look at everything they're pulling data from. You can look at where Trueflation's pulling data from and look at their baskets and see if you agree with the baskets, but they document all the data they're pulling. So look, I understand why people are skeptics of the inflation, but there's no reason why you shouldn't be believing Trueflation. I understand not believing the government data, but it's another thing to say, okay, well, this company that's completely transparently tracking the inflation of goods across the United States, they're manipulating it because at the end of the day, unless you can point to what's being manipulated, it's hard for me to buy the argument that it's all manipulated. Like on their website, they have all the indexes for where they're pulling this inflation data from. So you can look at the data providers, the categories, you can look at the index, where things are coming from, and everything that makes up this basket of what they're pulling for inflation. You might look at the basket and you might say, oh, this is dumb. Like this thing is included instead of this thing, which like then we can have an argument, but just saying that the numbers are flat out manipulated when there's nothing to point to what's manipulated, right? That's where it's hard to have a conversation about what's actually going on. So if anyone has any thoughts on that, maybe it makes you rethink the idea that all of it is manipulated as much as you think. There's no doubt it's manipulated. There's no doubt that the manipulation is how they present the data to the masses. Ricky Spanish, but the problem is like, and I'm not trying to say you're wrong or I'm right here. The problem is Trueflation has nothing to do with the government. Nothing to do with the government. This is a completely independent company like you getting together and creating your own inflation index. Oh, Frankie Crypto. Okay, so and here's the other thing that sometimes people think I'm making an argument of. I'm not making an argument that true inflation was bad and that people lost purchasing power and that, you know, that we're in a worse place than we were before. I absolutely agree that inflation is way faster than people's salaries are going up. But it doesn't mean that inflation isn't dramatically better than it was 2 years ago. So Frankie Crypto, I think you're absolutely right. And I think wage data has lagged. But that's also like I wasn't necessarily making a comment on that specific ratio in terms of wage data to inflation, but you're absolutely right. Big dog, when I look at statistics, they ask for what I want. When I took statistics, they asked for what I wanted and then find a bell-shaped data to support it. Well, that's a little different than what we're talking about in terms of truflation, right? This is just data. See what else we got. I appreciate the feedback here. It's always an interesting conversation when you get into this stuff. I trust what I see and experience. If the prices and goods and services are massively inflated, you actually see it and you participate in the markets, you pay it. Pretty simple. Well, here's what I'm saying, Digital Futures. Like, I totally see what you're saying there. But there's nothing is getting cheaper. Like, nothing is getting cheaper. The market, like, everything's still getting more expensive. So no one's saying that things are getting cheaper. It's just saying that things are getting expensive less fast. But things are still massively more expensive than they were a couple years ago. Like, that's why I looked at specifically the aggregate inflation. The aggregate inflation is, I mean, what you're seeing is close to 30%. So that means things are dramatically more expensive than they were before. But the rate at which they're getting more expensive, which is the inflation rate, is lower. So there's a couple different things that you have to factor in here. No one's saying things aren't dramatically more expensive than they were before. No one is making that argument. And I see that at the store too. Like, it's not like I go to the store and I'm like, oh, that's weird. Things are 50% more expensive. No, absolutely. That's what this aggregate inflation is. Aggregate inflation says things are dramatically more expensive than they were before. What we're looking at with the inflation data is just saying that things now are getting less expensive or getting expensive slower than they were before. Oh, Bobby, thank you so much. It was great meeting you. Yeah, sir. In certain products and services, absolutely are going to be dramatically more inflation, and some products and services are going to have dramatically less inflation. Like, let me give you guys an example of something that's clearly going down, and that's oil. Like, oil has clearly shown deflation, right? I don't think there's any way anyone can disprove the fact that oil has been dropping. Like this is just the price of oil. Like, this is the price of oil since the inflation boom. When the inflation was booming, we had oil at around $130 a barrel, and that's now dropped to 70. So, like, you can't tell me that's inflation, right? You can't tell me that's inflation. Like, that's just straight up not inflation. That's deflation. Now, are other things inflating, like you said, at 20% year over year? Absolutely. But what the inflation index is, the aggregate of all that data. Digital Futures says, I don't think it's manipulated. Well, it doesn't matter if it's manipulated. Of course it's manipulated. But at the end of the day, it just means the price is going down. Everything is manipulated to a certain degree. Everything's manipulated to a certain degree, but the prices are going down. All I'm looking at is prices. If prices are cheaper or prices are more expensive. The price of oil has clearly dropped. Mickle, do you think inflation goes down? Do you think because inflation goes down, then aggregate inflation will go down as well? Or, okay, Jeremy Johnson, that is a great question. No, because inflation is still positive. Inflation is still positive. inflation is still increasing. So inflation is things getting more expensive. And as things get more expensive, it adds to aggregate inflation. The higher inflation is, the higher aggregate inflation will be. So the higher inflation is, the more it adds to aggregate inflation. The only time you will ever see prices going down, right? The only time you will ever see prices going down and aggregate inflation going down is if we were to see a scenario where inflation went negative. So in order for inflation to go negative, we essentially need to go into a massive bust cycle where inflation actually goes below 0%, which is this bottom red line. This only happened during COVID and multiple other depressions. So in order for aggregate inflation to come down, we need inflation to actually go negative and for things to start getting cheaper. That is not what the Federal Reserve targets. The Federal Reserve targets inflation being positive. So in order for things to get cheaper, then we literally need to get to negative inflation. If we get to negative inflation, things are getting cheaper. But like if there's positive inflation, right? Like you guys can go to the grocery store and 2.6% inflation and it's probably higher on food. There's probably like 8% inflation at the grocery store. What is the baseline for aggregate inflation? That is a great question. That is a great question. It looks like the baseline for aggregate inflation is 2020. Compounded inflation rate since 2020. So 26% aggregate inflation since 2020. That's the aggregate inflation data. And over the long run, I do think prices are going to, things would be cheaper, but you would probably have lost your job if inflation were negative. Exactly. Typically deflation is not a good thing. What do I think Bitcoin does when it hits 100K? Probably nothing too different. Oil production countries stop production if oil prices get too low. Well, yeah, they do that with everything, right? They do that with everything. If certain food prices get too low, they slow down production. Like every market is controlled at some point. Like there's always someone, in most cases, controlling a market. So, absolutely, you're correct. But that's just natural market behavior. It's supply and demand. People want to make money. When you cut rates, it makes money cheap. More money in the economy means higher prices. Cut rates to dry up the cheap money and burst the bubble brings inflation down. When you cut rates, it makes more cheap money. More money in the economy means higher prices. Cut rates or raise rates to dry up the cheap money. Absolutely, NBK Crypto. I think you just meant raise rates. Inflation numbers often to include food, but food prices can sometimes be treated separately in specific inflation measures depending on the index used. Yep, absolutely. There's no way there's not manipulation there. I guess the point I'm trying to make digital futures is like we have to break down a specific index and find where in the index we think there's manipulation to really have the conversation. And there's a lot of different companies providing third-party data, and they all kind of end up, I mean, pretty close to what the Federal Reserve is saying. So Hydromage says his rent's up from 2,000 to 2,600 in 4 years. Absolutely. And that's aggregate inflation, right? That's aggregate inflation. XRP is deflationary. XRP is absolutely deflationary. All right, guys, I think we've covered, I think we've talked about, we've had a good talk about inflation. Take a quick look at Bitcoin, and let me just take a quick look to see if anything's going on in the news. How much money went from Bitcoin? Okay, yeah, in BK Crypto, I figured. I was about to say, because everything you were saying made sense, and then I was like, okay, well, this part doesn't make any sense. CPI doesn't exclude food, I don't think. But let's check. Let's check. Yeah, CPI does include food. I was pretty positive of that, but wanted to make sure. Sorry, a bit off topic. Mickle, I know it's a bit off topic, but your opinion, when do you think we'll see regulation? Probably in 2 years, I would say. 2 years, we get real regulation. We have to get a new, we got to get a new people in government. We got to get some more proactive people working on things. I don't know. I don't know. Like digital futures, I don't know if you're correct here. Consumer price index consists of a family of indexes that measure the change in experience by many consumers. Specifically, the CPI measures the average change in price over time as a market of baskets of consumer goods. This basket includes everything from food items to automobiles to rent. This is specifically on CPI. I'm not seeing anything that's... Sometimes they extract it out. Like, you can look at Spurt and data where they pull out food and energy to take a look at what it looks like without those categories, but CPI has everything in it. Do I play video games? I used to play video games. I don't have time anymore. Video games were always a little, I always enjoyed video games, but I was never really a gamer. Let's put it that way. Never really like someone who like loved gaming. So, whoops. All right, what did I do here? Okay, there we go. Yeah, I wouldn't call myself much of a gamer. I used to like playing video games, but I don't know. Not enough time these days. I think is coming faster than we think. Incoming government. Yeah, it's going to take a minute though. Like government's always slow. Probably take 2 years to get good regulations in place because they're going to fight about things. They'll fight about a million different things, but I think we're going to get it, which is the most important part. No notification went out when I went live on X today. Well, guys, I appreciate everyone for supporting the stream, liking the stream, retweeting, and making sure people still see the stream, despite the fact that it looks like we're fighting a lot of different shadow bans in terms of preventing people from getting notified when I do go live. Jeremy Johnson said, if I play video games, I always feel like I have something else to do that's more important. Yeah, I feel that. Not enough time in the day, man. Like, especially too, like with what I do now, it's like when I'm not doing like there's a million things like with my YouTube channel or with my live streams that can be like dramatically improved. And like, it's like I have so many different things I still need to prove on these live streams. It's like nothing ever stops. And like, I could be putting out more shorts and I could be doing all this stuff. Like there's so many things I could be doing that like I don't even do right now that like, I don't know. It's just so much stuff to keep up with. Like even when it comes to like my desk, like there's a million things here that is broken in terms of these live streams, things that need to be fixed that I just like haven't gotten a chance to fix yet. And it's like, I don't know, just no time to play video games. My day is literally wake up at 5:30 a.m., work out, 6:30, come back, shower, get up here, do live streams, work until 7, 8 at night, try to eat at some point in between that time frame, get ready for bed, repeat. And then when the weekend comes around, I get some free time. But and I love it, right? It's I actually love it. It's crazy. It's crazy. But like I don't function well when there's nothing going on. Like, I like things going on. I like to constantly be doing everything. I like the next thing to be happening. I like to be busy. I hate when I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I know a lot of people are probably thinking of like, this guy's a crazy person. Like, I love nothing more than just having nothing to do. But for some reason, I need something to do. And like, I don't care what it is, if it's challenging, if it's monotonous, like something. Silver Day says smash the like button. Appreciate that. And Silver Day, sorry I couldn't make that live stream last night. I think I passed out at like 9:30. So appreciate all you do, Silver Days. You're a legend around here. Looks like XRP is still trying to push to the top of this symmetrical triangle. Looking positive. We're off the bottom. And now we want to continue to put pressure on here. I don't know what it's going to be. Are we going to get some announcement today that causes this thing to go up? Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. It's been a nice transition. Took me a while to adjust, but it's a lot of fun. Yeah, so it looks like Sui Network did go down. Hopefully it doesn't turn into the next Solana where it's like just down all the time and like you can't trust it. What's my max bench? I'm not like a big power lifter. I think my max bench ever was like 245 or something like that. And that was when I probably weighed 40 more pounds than I do right now. Like probably my max bench right now is like maybe like 215-ish. I'm not really a power lifter. Like I like high intensity. I'm like just big, like for show. Like I want to look good. Like that's pretty much all there is to it. Like I do like lifting heavy like once in a while, and I think it's good for overall training, but like I just like to be in good shape, right? Like I just like to be in good shape, try to be as healthy as possible. I'm kind of like a health nut. So whatever I can do to make sure that I'm living like a healthy lifestyle, like that's kind of what I try to do. It's a lot less to do with like powerlifting or anything like that. Bitcoin not reaching 100K in this stream? Yeah, it doesn't look like it. Jeremy Johnson, thank you so much. Leo said, I don't know how you do. Because, Leo, I debate people all the time, and I love debating people on cryptocurrency and XRP. Yeah, Hydra Mage, exactly. I agree. I love talking to people who don't understand XRP. I think it's so interesting. And you can tell, like, Noti does get it. Like, he's trying to play this character, I believe, on social media where he's, like, anti-XRP, and, like, he's built a brand off of that. But, like, I think he gets it. I really do. He's not a dumb guy. He's really not. He's a smart guy. I wouldn't be surprised if he still holds some XRP. But, like, his persona, I believe, is sort of fake. I think he's created this persona off being the anti-XRP guy. And I would bet you in the near future that he flips to being pro-XRP. I think it's sort of just his thing where he's like anti-XRP to get people to like engage with him, which is like, you know, here's my thing with Noti. I have found that Noti, even through our debates and through our conversations, has always been extremely respectful. He's been funny, in my opinion. I like his sense of humor, and I have absolutely nothing wrong with him being the anti-XRP guy, especially if he's going to be respectful about it and he's going to be fun about it, right? Like, that debate was a ton of fun, and I'm sure a lot of people learned a lot from that debate, right? Like, there was a lot to learn from that debate in those conversations, whether or not you think I destroyed him or he destroyed me. So as long as people are respectful and they engage in conversation and they keep it lighthearted and fun, but like a learning experience, and look, all like props to him. Like he released a video about me, and like the entire video, he was respectful, he was funny, he took shots at me that I thought were like appropriate. Like I've got thick skin, guys. Like someone disagreeing with me and someone making fun of me is not gonna hurt my feelings. Like it just doesn't. Like when I grew up in one of those friend groups where everyone bullied each other constantly, and then you just you get thick skin. So I have no problems with Noti, and I think he'll end up being colossally wrong, and he'll look like a fool. But I don't have any problem with him going out and being anti XRP or debating me. Like I find it all fun. Thank you, Roger. You do the God's work in the comments. Thank you. Yeah, Jake was yoked. Yeah, no, Jake puts me to shame. Is it possible that bank Ripple governments can buy us out? No. Well, they can buy you out, and it's a natural market, right? So like they can buy you out. What happens if XRP goes to a certain price? Like if the banks bid XRP up to $100, then that's them buying you out. You're probably going to say, hey, I'm willing to sell some of my XRP for $100. That's how they buy you out. I don't think anyone's going to come knocking on your door and say, give me your ledger. Like that's not going to happen. But like if they run up the price and you want to sell at a certain price that XRP is being run up to, like that's how they buy your XRP. It's as simple as that. They run up the price and you act accordingly. Dennis, thank you so much for 100 HBAR. Yeah, the escrow's dry. Dennis says when the ETFs start eating escrow, institutional FOMO will kick in big time. Yeah, and right now a lot of right now Ripple's essentially emptying the escrow. Ripple's emptying the escrow right now. We're down to like 38 billion in the escrow. I remember like last winter it was up to like 55 or 60 billion, or probably like 50 billion. So the escrow is being depleted quickly by large institutions purchasing from Ripple. Guys, pretty soon there's not going to be any more XRP to sell from the escrow. And at that point, it all hits the open market. Everyone's buying from the open market. And that last spike we saw, me and Taylor were talking about this for a while. That last spike we saw in XRP where the price doubled or tripled, that was only $100 million of buying volume that did that. Imagine what happens when we have billions coming into XRP. Do I think XRP reaches $5 by the end of the year? I don't know. I want if Gary Gensler resigns and we get a pro SEC chair, I think it's possible we break all-time highs by end of the year. I don't know if I can put a specific number on it. Looks like we're trying to break out right now, though. I mean, take a look at what's happening. XRP is pushing on the top of this symmetrical triangle. And guys, how early did we call this was happening? How early did we call that this symmetrical triangle is playing out? I don't know why XRP loves this pattern so much, but it does. And like it was like very quickly. I was like, we're about to form this thing. We were all over it. It will shock people. Meteoric rise in price. I agree. Of course, it looks like, right when I have to start ending the stream, we're getting into the exciting spot, like right at that point where it's punching up against the top. Guys, make sure to smash the like button. Appreciate you guys all for being here. You guys are absolutely incredible. Wikipedia states Gary Gensler. Let's take a look. Take a look at that. No, it doesn't say yet. Maybe it was for a minute. Oh. And served as the chair of the SEC. Yeah. Yeah, Wikipedia says he's out. I don't know. That might be someone just messing with Gary. But yeah, no, Wikipedia does say served, not is serving. All right, guys, I'm going to cut it off there. Guys, thank you so much for coming. If you don't mind, on your way out, just make sure you drop a like on the stream. If you're not subscribed, you do that. And hit the bell notification. That way, when I go live on the future, you're informed about it. And you know what's going on. So, guys, appreciate you guys all for coming. On the way out, just make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Would love to have you here more often. And right now, it's like only like 60% of you are actually subbed. Like if you're coming here every single day, just hit the sub button. Trust me, it makes a massive difference for me, and it'll make sure you guys don't miss out on any